Jesus calls us over the tumult of our life's wild, restless sea. Day by day, his sweet voice soundeth, saying, Christian, follow me. Yes. I would have us think for just a few minutes, a few moments, on a sermon I have elected to call to be Friends. And of course you recognize the words with which I began as the words of an old familiar hymn that is part and parcel of the musical repertoire of the church. This hymn, the words used, it seemed to me, readily tie in with that passage from John where Jesus the Christ is making a call upon the lives and fortunes of his first century disciples. Though that passage has been read previously, permit me to read the key verse from that passage from a version of the Bible called the Message Bible. And this is the way it reads. I no longer call you servants, because servants don't understand what their master is thinking and planning. No, I have named you friends because I have let you in on everything that I received from the Father. This is the end of the reading. Now, what is Jesus saying to the disciples? He's saying to them that you have been promoted in a way of speaking. You have been moved up from where you were to where I need you to be, as I continue the mission of establishing a new order in the world. I need you to take on a larger responsibility so that the work that has been assigned will be done. But not only that, there is an element of urgency in this call upon these first century disciples to be his friends. You see, he was preparing even then to return to his Father, and he was trying to ensure that the work would be done. And so he said to them, no longer will I call you servants, but friends. But that was only part of the equation. The other part of the equation was that he tried to impress upon them, I need you to rethink the way you respond to me. It is not enough for Jesus to give them a new name. It is not enough for Jesus to elevate them to this new status, but it is also important that they are accepting of this new role. Right. And it took them quite a while to get it. Over and over again, they reverted back to their old ways of thinking and doing and being. But time was running short. And he needed them to understand this. And so he said to them, I call you to be my friends. Now, what do friends do? First of all, friends do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. Friends respond to friends anytime and anywhere and in any way. So what Jesus was really preparing the disciples to do was to put their very lives on the line. Every friendship is a partnership, but not every partnership is a friendship. I want to say that again. Not every partnership is a friendship. But every friendship is a partnership. So what Jesus was trying to say to the disciples, though you have watched me do all kinds of wonderful things, I've opened the eyes of the blind, I have cured the sick, I have made the lame to walk, but yet I need you as partners. But it was so hard for them to get it. It was hard for them to get it because they had been so accustomed to thinking of Jesus in terms of his power, in terms of his wonder-working. They could not see him as one needing anything from them. But I'm here to say to you today that this call, though it went to the disciples of the first century directly, it is a call to us indirectly in the 21st century. We too are called to be friends of God. Yes. We are called to be friends of God, and that means that we are to go where he sends us and do what he commands us to do. What does it mean in real life? It means going to the prisons.
All right.
To share the good news, even with those that are bound, because even those that are bound need to know that they are not beyond the love of God. And how are they to know unless someone comes to be a witness to that fact?
Yes.
You know, one of the criticisms of the church is that those folk, they gather there on Sunday morning, and then what happens? That's a good question. What happens? To be a friend of Christ means to go as he went, is to go out into the highways and byways of life, doing what needs to be done to bring a measure of justice, for example, to the children in the community. It means finding a way to address real human needs in the places where God has placed us. You know, when I retired in 2008, I said to myself, I almost said it like the man who planted crops and fill up his barns. I began to think like that. Look, I've earned a rest. You know, I've done 20 odd years in the military and 17 years and so on. I need to rest. And then I saw all that needed to be done. I had a young woman, single parent, knock on my office door at the hospital and say, I am almost to the point of despairing. And then she went on to tell me about how little money she made and how big was her responsibilities to take care of 2 children alone. And then I realized that there's no such thing as retiring from being the friend of God.
Amen. Amen.
God always needs friends to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. The second thing I want to say about this matter of answering the call to be God's friends is, don't give the excuse that I don't have anything or enough to give to make a difference. You know, everybody, not everybody, I grew up in the rural area, and sometimes you had to get your water by waiting until it rained. And sometimes it would rain a little bit. But especially in the season when drought was threatening, every drop made a difference.
Yes, yes.
So whatever you have, be it much or little, bring it and place it on the altar of God. Place it in God's hand, and he will multiply whatever it is that you bring. He needs friends to bring little loaves and a few fish. And he will take it and bless it and multiply it manyfold in order that needs, real needs, can be met in the human family.
Yes.
God needs friends now in this place where we are. This is a radical notion, of course. And that's probably why the disciples of the first century kept getting it wrong. How in the world does the triune God, the God who has all power and all might, how does he need us? How can that be? Well, it is so because that is a part of his plan. It is a part of his plan to save such of us as believe in his name, clean us up and fix us up, and then send us back out into the world to help save the whole world. In my theology, God's plan is to save the whole world. And in order to do that, he needs friends. Friends, the kind of which, if you call them, if you're on one coast and you call on the other coast, and friend or the so-called friend answers on the other end, he won't say the first word. He won't put the first word to you as a question. Man, did you know what time it is? The kind of friend we have is one that we can call any time of day and night, and if we are his friend, we will respond when the call comes to us. We will go where he sends us, and we will do what he wants us to do. One quick example, I grew up in South Georgia, as you know, and I heard a story about, coming up about this black woman in the community who was a great pie maker. She was unlearned, of course, and poor. We lived in a climate of terror from the Klan. But she made pies when somebody got sick. And she would walk miles across the dusty fields to take her pie to the home of the sick. It didn't matter if it was the rich, she took a pie. If it was the poor, she took a pie. If it was a Klan member, she took a pie. She didn't have much. But she was a friend of God, and she took her little and brought it, placed it in the service. Yeah. And this woman's ministry to everybody, across all kinds of lines of demarcation. The story goes that when she died, They had the first integrated anything in this community that they ever seen. Black folks and white folks, Klan folk and Christian folk, all kinds of folk were together, weeping and rejoicing in the fact that this woman had touched their lives with her eyes. God needs friends like that. God needs friends who will batter the walls that separate people on the basis of race and class and gender and sexual orientation. I'm not ready to marry gay and lesbian.
All right.
I've been praying as a result of what I've learned in your midst. God is about bringing all creation together.
Yes.
God has made us interdependent.
Yes.
Nature depends upon us, and we depend upon nature, and all of us depend upon each other. And sooner or later, we must learn what it means to answer God's call to be his friend.
Yes. Yes.
So, I'm here to tell you that this conversation that Jesus had with the disciples of the first century, if you listen, he is still speaking to you and to me.
Yes. Yes.
And what he says to us is, you're not my servants anymore.
Right.
You are my friends. There's still work to be done. Still walls to be torn down.
Yes.
There's still a kingdom to be built. There's still peace to be claimed.
Yes.
I keep saying that one day we'll have a war and nobody will show up.
All right. All right. All right.
We almost had it this time.
Yeah.
Obama was wrestling. And God bless him. I was praying for him and with him.
Yeah.
We have been called to be God's friend. And what does that mean? That we love everybody.
Yeah.
And that we love the world. All the world. As God has loved.
Yes.
This is the word of the Lord.